Tonight, light and heat.
Heat and humidity is a weakness in that chain.
New evidence on how sunlight and humidity kills COVID-19.
We've identified that sunlight, solar light, UV rays is a weakness in that chain.
But after the president floats an unorthodox idea,
is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning?
Backlash from health officials and others as COVID-related deaths in the U.S. top 50,000. And a new study finds most Americans' faith will fail them during the pandemic. Plus, something to make you smile with brighter days ahead. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A $480 billion shot in the arm for small businesses, but is it enough? Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup. Well, tonight, the United States death toll from the coronavirus here is 50,000. This as President Trump signed a new relief bill aimed at helping small businesses and hospitals. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now for tonight's top story. Ben?
Well, John, turns out some blame a lack of widespread testing and differences in reporting standards that could be the masking the extent of the virus's spread. President Trump is now hinting he may extend social distancing guidelines again next week, as Governor Andrew Cuomo has no plans to reopen New York anytime soon.
This is a remarkably effective virus at spreading and growing.
Cuomo says preliminary results reveal 1 in 5 New York City residents tested positive for antibodies to the coronavirus. This as the number of new cases and hospitalizations due to COVID-19 is down. So is the death rate, but it's still an alarming number.
Number of lives lost is still heartbreaking news, 422.
More than 2.7 million worldwide have been diagnosed, with nearly 900,000 of those cases in the U.S. Still, some states began reopening this week. It's back to business in Georgia, with barbershops, bowling alleys, and even salons available to open.
We'll be doing temporal thermometer checks on clients and employees every day as they come in, pre-screening them the day before when we confirm their appointment.
But Trump says he's not happy with Governor Brian Kemp's widespread lifting of restrictions.
I said, you make your own decision. I told him that. I said, you're not in the guidelines, but I'm letting you make your own decision. But I want people to be safe, and I want the people in Georgia to be safe.
After emerging studies showed ultraviolet rays in bleach have been shown to kill the virus, Trump asked whether the idea might be used to treat COVID-19 patients, but today pushed back on his remarks.
I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. But it does kill it, and it would kill it on the hands, and that would make things much better. That was done in the form of a sarcastic question to the reporters.
Lysol released a statement in part saying, under no circumstance should our disinfectant products be administered into the human body through injection, ingestion, or any other route. This as the president's Secretary of State looks for truth from China about the origin of the virus.
We need to figure out how it happened. It's not just about political retribution or accountability. It's important today. We need to know this so we can save lives going forward. We need our scientists, our academics, our epidemiologists all to have access to the data, access to a sample of the virus, access to the places it might have come to. Those are all things that matter so that we can solve this problem, get our country back to work, and save lives.
President Trump is now looking to a Phase 4 stimulus package. Lawmakers are discussing a $2 trillion infrastructure deal to fix the nation's roads, railways, and even bridges, which could also create jobs and boost the economy. The bill would also help restaurants, entertainment, and sports. John?
Thanks, Ben. Joining me now is Dr. Lori Furlano, the Virginia Department of Health's Deputy Commissioner for Population Health. It is good to have you here today. As you know, some of the states that are reopening today are doing so against the guidance that the White House gave out, which recommends a 14-day decrease in COVID-19 cases before reopening. As of this morning, the total number of cases in Virginia is just under 11,600. Is Virginia in any position to reopen anytime soon?
What we'd like to see is that downward trajectory of about 14 days, either in the number of cases or the positivity rate among tests. We'd also like to see an increase in test capacity and assurance that our healthcare system can absorb patients and treat patients accordingly if we do and when we do reopen. I think the decision to reopen certain sectors in Virginia or any state should be informed with data. And we also want to do that in a really mindful and thoughtful way. Doing it too soon could really have a negative effect.
Speaking of data, the data show that there's a disproportionate amount of cases in highly populated areas compared to the rest of the state, like Northern Virginia, for example. Should it be up to individual counties to reopen if they've seen far fewer cases?
Right now, I do think the state level approach is the right way to go. Viruses don't know county lines. People are not necessarily able to stay in one place at one time. Essential work might take them to different areas. So right now, these state level precautions and restrictions, although they're hard, are important. We're hoping that as we see the epidemic evolve, and cases will hopefully start going down soon, we'll be able to release some of those restrictions. And it may make sense sometime in the future to think through that model differently, but right now I think the statewide approach is the way to go.
Dr. Furlano, a quick follow-up. Are those less populated regions of Virginia equipped to handle a potential influx of coronavirus cases?
You're right. That's a really important consideration. They still have to take the same precautions as in the more populated areas, so washing their hands, staying home, socially distancing from others. And we are watching that data closely. We're in close contact with our local health departments all over the state, not just in Northern Virginia and Richmond. And we watch that data everywhere. So we're going to make sure that those resources are in place. But what's most important is to control the spread.
The state's nursing homes and long-term care facilities seem to be the hardest hit. What do you recommend for families who are worried about their loved ones in those facilities? What do they need to know and what do they need to do?
So the first thing they need to know is that these nursing homes and the people that live in them are one of our #1 priorities. This is a population that's most vulnerable to serious complications of COVID-19, and these settings are ones in which virus can be transmitted more easily than different settings.
Dr. Lori Furlano, we appreciate your time and your expertise, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. For more information, people can visit our website at vdh.virginia.gov.
The relief bill President Trump signed into law this afternoon has a hefty price tag of nearly $485 billion. That aid goes mostly to help small businesses and hospitals. Here now, Abigail Robertson, CBN Capitol Hill correspondent, with the latest now that the bill has finally crossed the finish line. Abigail?
That's right, John. After 2 weeks of negotiations, they finally got about an additional $500 billion passed, and just over $300 billion of that is going to go to refill that popular Paycheck Protection Program. Now, this is going to help small businesses keep making their payroll, even if their employees can't come into work. And this comes as an additional 4.4 million Americans filed for unemployment this week, meaning in the past 5 weeks, 26.5 million Americans have filed for unemployment, and we're really continuing to see just historic job loss right now.
So, Abigail, what's next? Any plans for additional relief bills that you're hearing about?
Well, already Democrats are talking about another massive stimulus package that they want to see go towards aiding state and local government. But Republicans are being a little more cautious about this one. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he wants to see how the aid bills that they've already passed are working. He wants to assess what's working, what's good in those bills, and he doesn't want to pass another massive bill just by unanimous consent, meaning the past one we saw this week, the Senate wasn't called back. It was just a small group there voting on it by unanimous consent. And he said before they consider any more massive legislation, he wants the full Senate up and running again with everyone's input.
All right, CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Thanks, Abby. Well, joining me now for our Friday Faith Nation panel, Julia Manchester, political reporter at The Hill. Julia, always great to have you. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he's in favor of letting states go into bankruptcy amid unprecedented budget shortfalls in the pandemic. Those remarks earned bipartisan backlash. Is there any support for that idea on Capitol Hill?
It doesn't seem like there is, and you're seeing backlash not only on Capitol Hill, but in a number of the states that have been impacted. Now, Governor Larry Hogan has someone who is someone who's been a bit more moderate on the issue of the coronavirus pandemic, oftentimes siding with Democrats in the response. However, Governor Chris Sununu, in New Hampshire recently came out yesterday and called the idea dangerous and a ridiculous statement. You see Congressman Peter King from New York also making the comments that, essentially if he does not regret it yet, he's going to regret it soon. So McConnell, that is. So McConnell getting quite a bit of backlash for these remarks. So it'll be interesting to see whether he backs off of this, in the midst of a pandemic.
Julia, the president today said he was being sarcastic about remarks he made yesterday about injecting disinfectant into the body as a way to kill the virus. That, of course, also sparked backlash and ridicule the media jumped on. Who does this hurt more, the president for offering these unscientific remedies or the media for covering them ad nauseum?
I think it hurts the president because the president is offering these daily White House press briefings and giving access to the media. And since this is the leader of the country in the middle of a pandemic, you can expect the media to be covering this. And he is offering this medical advice. Now, we do know that the experts surrounding him have disagreed with that. And we've seen the owners of heads of a number of these disinfectant companies, Lysol and Clorox, say, no, you should not do that. But I think this hurts him more. I think a lot of his critics have said, look, he needs to leave this to the experts, let them talk about this. And if he did do that in the first place, he wouldn't be walking those comments back today and calling them sarcastic. And I think critics are already saying, look, you don't want to be sarcastic during a pandemic.
Julia, just about 30 seconds left. Are these daily briefings, though, in line with that, hurting the president or helping him? We see that his poll numbers are slipping.
It's definitely a fair question. It seems like the more President Trump speaks at these daily press briefings and doesn't have Dr. Birx or Dr. Fauci speak, it seems like that hurts him more.
All right. Julia Manchester with The Hill, thank you so much for your time. Have a great weekend. Well, coming up, in case you've forgotten, it is still an election year. How the Trump campaign is ramping up, even in the face of the pandemic.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Welcome back. We are less than 200 days away from the election, and while the president is busy with a response to the pandemic, his campaign is busy gearing up for November 3rd. CBN Chief Political Analyst David Brody talked with the campaign's Director of Strategic Communications about its massive volunteer effort, along with criticism aimed at President Trump's handling of the outbreak.
You clearly believe you have an advantage from a virtual standpoint over Joe Biden, not just a bully pulpit, but what you're doing from a campaign standpoint?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, we already know we had the digital advantage from 2016, and all we have done is grow that presence even more. In fact, you know, it's been widely reported and discussed how sophisticated the digital operation that we have is, and the way the campaign is organized under Brad Parscale. You know, we are very nimble. We're very our ability to tailor our message to reach out to people with messages that impact them is rivaled by no one. It is clearly above and beyond. And meanwhile, when you see Joe Biden still struggling, barely able to get a couple of 100,000 people, maybe on a good day, to watch any of his videos compared to our millions, and that's not even with the president, that's with people like me. When we can do that, you know we've got a pretty strong foundation of support.
Mark, some criticism for the president, obviously, on the coronavirus situation. The Pew Research poll just out in the last day or so saying that most Americans thought it was a bit slow to respond. I know China and the travel ban and all, I get all that. But this is what Americans are saying, at least in a pretty respected Pew poll. They're also saying that they're concerned that we may go a little too fast back to reopen the economy. How much of this is going to be on the president to make sure this goes well? Otherwise, that could be problems for the campaign going forward.
Well, it's always on. When you're the leader, when you're the elected official, it all falls upon you. And a lot of people, I think, are giving the president correctly praise for acting when he did to shut down travel from China in the affected areas, while at the same time you had the mayor of New York, you had Nancy Pelosi encouraging people to continue to go out and celebrate the Lunar New Year in their communities. You had obviously, you know, a lot of problems with that, and the president was attacked for being xenophobic and racist by Joe Biden and many other people when he took that decisive early step. And I think as we start to come out of this, and as we see states emerging from the shutdowns, as we see the economy kicking back up, then I think people are going to realize that the way the president handled this was best for our public health and our economic health. And to be honest with you, when you're looking at that economy, that strong economy we had going into it, thank goodness we had a strong economy going into it. When you compare that with Joe Biden, and the architect of the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression, I think a lot of people are going to say, we want the man who built the rocket ship to get us back on that rocket ship post-coronavirus, and that'll be easy choice with President Trump. So I think as more and more people emerge from this, they will have more comfort in the fact of how this was handled and how we're preparing for the next one, and that bodes well for President Trump.
Coming up, why Americans' faith will fail them during the pandemic. That's the conclusion of a new study. We'll take a look when we return.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
to make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Welcome back. We've heard how people are searching for answers and turning to faith during the pandemic, but a new study reveals shocking information about what exactly Americans believe. It found about half, 51% of American adults, have a traditional biblical view of God as the all-powerful, all-knowing creator, a dramatic 30-year decrease from 73% in 1991. Of those who believe in Jesus, more say he sinned than didn't, 44% to 41%, and a higher percentage believe in Satan, 56%, than believe in God. Well, what does it all mean? Joining me now is George Barna, Director of Research at the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University. He is also the founder of the Barna Group. Dr. Barna, good to see you. Your group released these findings in the American Worldview Inventory. Even though more people are turning to faith in these uncertain times, we're hearing anecdotally, why do you say most Americans' faith will fail them in the current crisis?
Well, you have to look at the substance of their faith, and the reality is that they don't know God, they don't really know Christ. Only 3 out of every 10 Americans know Christ as their Savior. We know that only about 3 out of 10 Americans bother to read the Bible during a typical week. And then when we ask people how they make their day-to-day decisions, where they turn to for advice, God typically is not in the equation. We look at the impact that the virus is having on people's attitudes and values. And what we find is that the primary focus right now is emotion, with the primary emotion being fear, and leadership. They're looking to the government for leadership. Once again, God isn't really at the center of their thinking as they try to figure out how to deal with things, how to understand what's going on, who to trust. We look at their perceptions about the Bible. And we know that only 4 out of 10 Americans, based on the new survey, believe that the Bible is true and accurate in the things that it teaches. You put together their overall view of God, only 1 out of 10 Americans believe in that definition of God as you started to describe it, but also believe that God loves them unconditionally, is involved in their life, has a reason for everything that happens in their life, and are certain that he exists. Only 1 out of 10. So by and large, what we see happening is that people are looking inward rather than upward for the kind of solutions that they're going to need to figure out how to treat this unique period in history. Rather than seeing it as a great time to grow and to minister, they're trying to survive.
Dr. Barna, I want to ask you, what does that say about discipleship, spiritual formation, and what people who call themselves Christians are learning in church?
Yeah, I mean, what we discovered again from the research is that the most effective way that people learn spiritual truths is through conversations and relationships with 1, 2, maybe 3 other people who are perhaps a bit more spiritually mature than they are. So there's a coaching process going on. And once again, this is a great time during the pandemic for those kind of relationships to blossom and that kind of insight to be shared.
51% of pastors on Barna's church panel said church attendance in terms of virtual attendance is up compared to typical Sunday in-person worship services. Could that uptick change the trend we're seeing in the Worldview Inventory?
Not likely. When we look at how people's worldview develops, it begins developing at 15 to 18 months of age, almost completely developed by age 13. During our teens and our 20s, we refine that worldview, but after that, we basically run with it. So for the most part, it's too late, with adults, we're not really doing very much in developing the worldview of children. And frankly, as we've done content analysis on sermons that get preached, we find that people aren't getting the full counsel of God. They're not getting the totality of what the scriptures teach, and particularly in not a sufficiently systematic manner to help them develop a real worldview.
All right, Dr. Barna, it is a treat to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, and we wish you the best. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, coming up, smiles are multiplied in this timely rendition of a contemporary hit, sure to make you smile.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religion he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Finally tonight, maybe you've heard Kirk Franklin's joyful anthem on the radio, but a new rendition of I Smile, a video call remake with gospel and secular recording artists, takes on greater meaning during the global pandemic. The choir included well-known voices like Kelly Price, Fantasia, and Jonathan McReynolds. It was part of BET's COVID-19 relief effort called Saving Ourselves, which broadcasts music and entertainment from around the globe to benefit high-risk communities of color. Great song, and it's going to be stuck in my head all weekend. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Faith Nation. We hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe.